Greetings, everyone. I am Sia Pandita from Tasveer. If you're not new to our channel, Tasveer is an effort to make the reporting, processing, and redressal of cybercrimes of sensitive nature less tedious. Such crimes include revenge porn, upskirting, image based sexual harassment, cyberflashing, etc. It uses awareness to remove the hesitant nature of victims of such crimes and provides them with protective measures against it. For this, it uses podcasts, interviews, and blogs with renowned experts from the field. Today, we will welcome Ms. Pallavi Pratap. Ms. Pratap has been practicing as an advocate on record at the Supreme Court of India for the past 5 years. She has also featured in Business World's top 40 under 40 lawyers and legal influencers. She is currently a managing partner at Pratap & Co. We are extremely grateful to have you here, ma'am. We have a bunch of questions lined up. With your permission, should we
Thanks,
begin with the questions?
Sia. Yep. Thank you, Sia, for having me here. I just want to say that I actually did go through a few of the podcasts that Tasveer
Mhm.
has done, and I found them quite invigorating and actually informative as well. So I look forward to whatever little that I know of about this specific area, and I hope I'll be able to help people out with it.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. All right. Our first question is there an increased chance of harassment in a virtual space compared to the physical world?
No, I think yes. All of us. I mean, I'm not saying that there is just a specific age or a specific gender which is, vulnerable to the kind of harassment which is happening. I think it has now gone beyond age spectrum, and anybody and everybody who's on social media or who has an access to internet, a lot of us are facing harassment. Not just,
Mhm.
I think, physical harassment more so has started to now um, with the lockdown and with the COVID situation, a lot of those physical interaction sort of reduced. So that kind of harassment did not really take place so much in the past 2 years that we saw. Now, of course, the numbers are increasing again. But in virtual space, I think all of us are very vulnerable, especially because no matter what you do, even if you have a private account or if you have a public account, you are actually vulnerable to people sending you messages, using your photo and misusing it, or you know um, uh, unnecessary messages. People will find your phone number and start sending you random messages, which or calling you randomly. I think these are places where we've been seeing that the virtual harassment has really increased. And to top it is that in virtual space we share a lot of our own lives, right? So for instance, if I like to go to a certain cafe, and I would spend some time there and I've posted a picture, so people will start, if somebody is a stalker, it would be convenient for that person to even harass you in the
Mm.
physical space there. So a lot of that is now transitioning towards physical harassment as well. So I think, yeah, in my, at least my experience, I've realized that virtual space is more we are more prone to harassment over there. And it is not about just one single gender. I know of men who have been harassed by women, if not, and then at least other men may be pretending as women and then sending messages and trying to create trouble for them. I think these things have become, this impersonification has become a big problem for every one of us in that sense. Yeah,
All right. So this act is clearly, as you can say, gender neutral. So you would say,
absolutely.
but is there any specific community which is more targeted? Like, would you believe that women are more vulnerable than men in a virtual space, or is it equal?
No, I think women are definitely more vulnerable. I feel even LGBTQ community is very, very vulnerable because people go and slam them for the life
Mm-hmm.
choices that they make. Even with women, I mean, look at all these. The interesting thing here is that you see all these celebrities, correct? And if you go on any of their photographs, which is there, you'll see thousands of people commenting badly about maybe the dress that she's wearing, or
Mm-hmm.
the maybe the makeup or anything. They will just go, and everybody who has an opinion will give an opinion, which I think, because there is no way that you can sort of monitor this, and people, I don't know what kind of baggages that they are carrying, that they feel that, it is only on social media that they can vent out something like this. I think that's causing a lot of problem for a lot of women specifically. So let's say, for instance, I was watching some very interesting, some new actress, I think, who had put in some exercise video, and she was really working out really well. And then some man from somewhere had written a comment that, oh my God, you look like a matka. And I'm like thinking, where is that matka? She's just so thin.
Yeah.
So, this is just a small insensitive thing that I've noticed. And then there are other people who are just trolled for anything and everything. I mean, today itself, I think there is some news about some actress who's made a Twitter feed, some tweet she's done, and
Yeah.
it's going on in the newspaper since on the news TV since morning, as to, oh, she said this, and now it's religious sentiments and
Right.
people's
Yeah.
sentiments.
I read that as well. Yeah.
So yeah, so so people, no, people would not want to even give their opinion because they are scared that there'll be, and especially women, they are scared to give their opinion because then they are judged on so many parameters, and it's difficult, I think, for women to voice their concerns then, or opinions for that matter.
Right, ma'am. Do you think the term workplace includes a virtual space from the web?
Oh, it does. Absolutely. In today's work from home environment, absolutely it does. I completely agree. As a matter of fact, there have been, I think, at least internationally, I know that there have been gender sensitization, and this sensitization primarily, there are trainings which are conducted to sensitize people that, work from home or the virtual space includes the fact that if there is, let's say, a Zoom meeting which is going on, and somebody makes a comment which is, which is insensitive to another, let's say, let's assume a female co-worker,
Right.
then, that is harassment. That would have happened in the physical space also, but now that is also transitioned to the virtual space because we are using virtual space to speak also, no? So, yeah, absolutely. I think definitely it is. And the laws should also extend to that. So when we're talking about POSH specifically, it should not be only about somebody coming to the workspace and then doing it. It could also include virtual spaces where, let's say, if there is a Zoom meeting going on or a Gmeet meeting going on, and people are making comments and things like that. Yeah.
Definitely. And we know about a lot of measures taken by the government as well as the institutions, private institutions themselves, to prevent harassment of women. But what measures do you believe have taken place to prevent harassment at the workplace, which is done against men?
So, I think we still, as a society, have to grow up to that level where we are able to, identify that men can also be victims. Traditionally, we've always, because of a patriarchal mindset and the society being conditioned in such a manner, and I'm not just talking about India, I'm also talking about Western world, that, everybody has always assumed that a woman would be a victim, or she will be the one who will be harassed, etc. But now we've also seen that shift happening as far as gender is concerned. And this is also because I think sometimes when we get rights, we all, as women, we get, we've been, at least touchwood, in the space that we are living in just now, we've got good rights, which I think 20 years before people did not have. So when we have rights, a lot of times, with that, leads to misuse of it also. When something which is trying to, which when there are times when there are acts or there are statutes that come in order to empower you, a lot of times these misuse take place, especially if you see the Dowry Prohibition Act. You would see that a 498A is misused so often that even the Supreme Court had to interfere and then say that, okay, no, you cannot automatically arrest, or you cannot necessarily go and in a 498A setup, do anything that anything in terms of people who are also not involved. You are just using them and incriminating them against things. I think, those are the areas where we see that the misuse is happening. So harassment here would not necessarily uh, mean that, it's like the physical harassment that we as women go through, that somebody's, rubbing us off, or, just sort of shoving or things like that. It could also be, if you would remember that interesting episode that had taken place of that RJ from Bombay, when Neeraj Chopra was there. I don't know if you would remember this or not, but when Neeraj Chopra was being
I
interviewed.
don't.
Okay, so when Neeraj Chopra was being interviewed by these RJs, and then they, started to perform some dance thing, and a lot of hullabaloo happened about the fact that that is harassment, because that poor man was actually, if you would look at those videos, you would see that he's very embarrassed, or he's like sitting also very guarded, or not very comfortable with what was happening. So for a woman, if you shift that, and you would realize that, okay, for a woman, if the roles would have changed, it would have clearly been harassment. But if you look at it from a man's perspective, I think that was an instance which, if not harassment, was clearly out of line over there.
All right. Are there any laws that you know of which penalize cyber stalking?
There are quite a few, as a matter of fact, most police stations right now in the metropolitans at least have a cyber cell, right? So you can go, and even online also you can register your cyber complaints. You can also go to NCW and register your complaints if there are points of harassment that is taking place, as far as cybercrime is concerned. And then, as a matter of fact, I think uh, a lot of 376 matters, the rape matters that we see, when sometimes there is consensual sex which is involved, and maybe two consenting people would have clicked pictures and things like that, and then if that affair goes wrong, those pictures are circulated. Things like these are happening a lot right now. As women, you may be trusting someone, but you never know what it might lead to. So there are institutions and there are laws which are there to facilitate that justice can be done. But I have realized that, or at least in the practice that I've seen, that if somebody goes and registers a complaint, it is very rarely that effective investigation will take place. Or, for instance, if there are these photographs which are objectionable, they'll be circulated over media, and it's I think for a woman or for a girl, it is one of the most private moments which are then being circulated across in general public. I think these are the areas where, even though the law is very, very stringent in that sense, you've got the IT Act, which was completely amended and new provisions were brought in. You always have the IPC provisions also to back you up. But in reality, and you've got POXO Act, which basically says that, okay, the trial has to be completed in a specific time. But when you look at the reality in the ground, you will realize that, even though everything has the best of the intention in mind, what we see is that the implementation at ground zero is not as good. So therefore, the the perpetrators, be it just a stalker, or be it someone who's harassing you,
They
the
get
perpetrator,
away.
correct, they just know that the law is not effective. They won't be able to find, even if they'll be able to find me after 3 years, something will happen. By that time, the girl or the woman will be so exhausted by the entire process that she'll be like, okay, let's just settle, I'll take back my complaint, and just so just let's just move on. I've noticed this so many times now, that if it all that law was administered in a time bound manner, and there were specific timelines which were there, I think it would have been more stringent, it would have been more powerful, and it would have made us as women more confident in doing the things that we really want to, right? Uh, which I think is not there at all. If there is a complaint which is written, not necessary that that NCR will actually get converted into an FIR. So a lot of women will have to then go under the 156(3) CRPC provisions and then get an FIR registered. So, it's like a big cycle. So and then of course it's that woman's respect, that woman's name in the society which is on stake. So I think those problems then deter a woman to also approach police officers or anywhere to stop ourselves. Now, what can we do to combat it if if the institution is such? One you can do is that, of course, make sure that you are giving your NCR, you are registering your NCR, right? Or you are registering your complaint on the cyber. So the cyberspace. You will find METI, the Ministry of Information Technology, etc., have these websites which are there where you can online register for your complaint. Now, the moments of beach mein, I think during the lockdown only somebody had used my pictures and put it and asked for money from other people and all of that. And this is my personal experience that I'm telling you. So what happened was that I did file for a complaint in the local police station in Hoskas, and I told them that this is a problem that I'm facing. Somebody has made a fake profile of me and asking for money. Of course, on my social media accounts also, I said that somebody's made a fake profile. Then I went and registered on that online thing. And I got a complaint number, which came by way of a message, and you could track it, right? The thing was that at certain stage, that fake profile, because it was also on Instagram, so I could also use the Instagram thing to say that this is a fake profile, and it stops there. But if I were to take it to the next level, then I was to ensure that those NCRs or the complaints that I had registered with the local police station, I would then have to follow up. They wanted the evidence from me, so I gave them all the evidence that this is the chat. Because somebody who assumed that it was me got that chat from that person. We took the screenshots, we gave it to them. We reported the profile also. And I had given them as many evidence that I could actually find out. They were to trace it, and they traced it to someone in Rajasthan. But at that stage, we realized that we were not able to trace the person who was doing it. Obviously, you could not put their entire bandwidth on someone as small as me to figure out who is this person. But if it was a big harassment or if it was a big problem, then they would have traced out the person exactly, because they can find it out from the IP address. Even though a lot of times we see that these IP addresses are routed also, but nonetheless, they could have traced it out from the IP address and then picked up that person and then taken over the process as whatever happens in terms of the police reports, etc. But that, I believe, would have taken at least a year's time. So if you are looking for an instant relief, that does not necessarily come immediately. It will take some time for it to happen. One of the ways of doing it is also to have the 156(3) application put before the magistrate. Now, there what happens is when you file a 156(3), no, so then the police is supposed to provide a police report in that application. Whenever you file it, a 156(3) CRPC saying that, okay, the police has not registered my FIR, and therefore I want the court to direct the police to register my FIR. So there, when you annex all the evidence, then the police has to provide a police report. And therefore, they are then bound to do the investigation. So this is a way of moving the criminal law cycle. And then the criminal law comes into motion, and you'll be able to find a little earlier, or rather quicker remedy if the police refuses to register your FIR. The other way of doing it is that you write to NCW, but these are just ways of doing it to make sure that you have enough evidence to show that somebody has been harassing you or somebody has been threatening you, that you've written to NCW, you've written to the police everywhere, and you've got an entire paper trail ready with you. Then when you're filing that 156(3), you have enough evidence to show that I am actually the one who's the victim. It then I feel it helps a lot. So this I personally feel is the easiest and the efficient way of combating with any cybercrime where you feel that no resolution is happening immediately. Right?
Right. But again, these are laws that govern private individuals, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if we're in a more of a workplace environment, like one of your colleagues or your boss, for example, shares explicit photos of yourself, they share it in a public sphere, or they send it to another person, what measures can you take there as a member of that company, as a member of that private organization?
If you're a woman, then outraging the modesty of a woman is an IPC section, right? So you have that, you can take recourse to that, correct? That's one. Outraging of modesty, believe me, is even though people think that it is like anybody can use it against anyone, but if you have the evidence, it is one of the most difficult sections to get out from for a man. And in workplace, in situation, it works really well. See, as far as posh is concerned, not all organizations will have posh just now. As far as India is concerned, no. What happens is that they will have like 5 employees that they'll show on their books, and most of the other people will be on contract. So then these are like these gray areas. Most companies, which are big companies, will ensure that posh is complied with completely. But a lot of smaller companies that we see in India, which is mostly your mom and pop shops, for instance, in any good shop you will see at least 10 people are employed, of which there will be 2 or 3 women. Do you think posh is being administered over there? No. So companies where you have posh which is operating, first thing you have to do is go to the person who's in charge of it and make sure that you tell them, you file your complaint that this is what has happened. The first step should always be with the posh in charge to inform them about the incident that has taken place. And I always suggest to people that if something has happened to you, you have to act on it immediately. But as women, as girls, we always think about it too much कि लोग क्या कहेंगे अगर मैंने ऐसा complaint किया, अच्छा चलो मैं ignore कर देती हूँ, all of that. So then there is a delay in filing of a complaint from the date of incident. That can be detrimental, because when you're fighting it out in a trial in court, they show that, okay, this delay was caused and this person was only thinking as to how she can implicate this person, and therefore and by the time a lot of evidence is also erased. For instance, if somebody sent you a photo of themselves in an explicit manner, or um, uh, whatever, and they delete it, or they have that disappearing message on and that goes away, or something happens to your own mobile phone and you don't have that evidence, how do you prove it? In our system, unfortunately or fortunately, everything is based on the evidence which is provided. Correct. So I feel this is where you have to always act a little fast. Otherwise, you should always keep that evidence with you. You might not want to act upon it, is a different story, but keeping that evidence, so using that WhatsApp thing to email that chat to yourself, whatever has been the chat, I think that always works. But when you are emailing it to yourself, you may have saved a number. So for instance, I have saved your number as Sia Pandita, right? But when I'm producing it in the court, the transcript will show Sia Pandita written over there. Now I can use XYZ's person's phone number and write Sia Pandita and save it in my mobile. When I export that chat, it shows only Sia Pandita, right? So whenever you're saving this, I have always suggested to my clients that you remove the name, right? So delete that person's name. So I will remove your name as Sia Pandita. So phone number will show. And that is how you show the evidence that because there is a phone number and this phone number has sent me this message, that's how you build up on your evidence. These things that I'm telling you right now is from a practitioner's perspective. That tomorrow, if you have a case like this, see, I can tell you 100 things. I can tell you, posh mein jaake complain kar do, or go to the nearest police station, file an NCR. But tomorrow, if that matter ever gets carried to a trial court, how is it that you will be able to produce your evidence? These are the ways that you should do. So these are just smaller things, but you should always remember that any time in any kind of a matter, also, if you're producing WhatsApp transcripts, always show the phone number, don't remove the name from them. So, so that's how you have to always build up your evidence as very strong. And when it comes to, let's say, if there is a delay in FIR or delay in reporting the incident. So, for instance, somebody harassed me today, but I took it in my stride. But it kept hurting me, and maybe after 15 days, I realized, no, I can't take this anymore. I can't just come to terms with what happened to me, and I want to go and file my complaint. You must do it immediately, just to show that, okay, and then you have to provide in the entire narrative also, this word by word happened, and then give it in the workplace, you should give it to the posh person. And also, it's not necessary, if you're a woman, then outraging the modesty, you can use it with the police station also. And if there is something which has happened, let's say for instance, on a WhatsApp, then you can also always use the IT laws also in it. So the police in that sense can always be of help. But in a workplace, typically, Posh has been brought about only to ensure that it is easier for you to find the first person whom you can go and contact and tell, okay, this is not right, I don't like this, you please speak to him, or then lodge my complaint and take it forward from there, right?
So do you think that because of the pandemic that the working conditions have changed? A lot of people are working from home. Even though now the cases are at a standstill, people are still working from home. So do you think that, since you mentioned a lot of the digital evidence that we send to the posh person, do you think that these working from home conditions have actually increased the sexual harassment in workplaces?
uh, I don't have any data so far as this goes to support, but I know that since now about 60-70% of people have actually gone back to physical setup, physically that harassment has again started to come, and there are incidents that are being reported. And as a lawyer, I keep hearing clients keep coming and telling me that, okay, this happened, that happened. As far as the virtual world is concerned, I think that harassment was there always when somebody is making a comment or saying things to you. But uh, um, I think also because people do realize that these evidences are very easy to bring. If I'm in a Zoom conversation with you, I have the recording, and that can always be produced. Now, CCTV might have a footage for only a limited period of time, but if you record this over a iCloud thing, then that thing is there forever until and unless you decide to delete it. So I think people are wary of it. I think also the work from home setup has been brought about more to empower women to come to the workforce. But if you notice it now, since the pandemic, women have actually left workforce. It is not that the increase has happened as far as workforce participation of women is concerned. So I think it's going to take some more time. And with the recession which is coming, I mean, you must have read about Jeff Bezos saying that, the recession is there, and that a lot of companies are actually, you know, take, I don't know who, Google has actually some 10,000 or some odd number. People have been fired. Twitter is doing it every. So
Amazon, Meta.
yeah,
Yeah.
correct. So if the recession is coming, and the participation of women is actually reducing in that sense. So what we see is that when you are in a physical space, that it becomes easy for men to actually do, or I'm just talking about two genders just now, but in terms of a man or a woman and women being victims,
Mm-hmm.
but I have realized that it is easier for them to get away with it because there's not so much. Uh, it's not so much that every nook and corner of the office will have a CCTV footage to give.
Mm-hmm.
But you would see that in a virtual space, a lot of it is documented. So because of that, that much harassment is not happening just now.
All right. Now, to look from the other side of the story, since it's become very much easier to file complaints, how do you think an individual could protect themselves from false complaints or allegations like that?
I think that goes, it's difficult.
Hmm.
But anybody can only file a complaint when there is an evidence for the complaint. No, if I have sent you something which I may not be aware, but I have a feeling that that might hurt someone's sentiment, or whatever opinion that she might have, then I will probably try and avoid it. So if I'm giving that evidence to the other person to then lodge a complaint against thing, I think we just have to look into ourselves and let our conscience speak that maybe this is something which is going to be wrong. The other thing I feel is that like for instance, if there's a fake profile, then it is the best thing is to notify to certain people in the concerned offices, everybody, so that you are safe. That I found out, I was intimated that there is a fake profile. I went to the police and I told them there is a fake profile which is doing this is not my person. So tomorrow, even if somebody files a complaint against me, I can always show that I was not, this is not me. I've
Hmm.
already given police a complaint and they are investigating. They have to figure out as to who is this person who's impersonifying me in terms of making a fake profile, or putting my photo somewhere and claiming to be XYZ. Things like that. Yeah, that's what it
Right.
will be.
But as you mentioned earlier, there's a lot of rampant misuse of rights. So if someone to gain some sort of compensation or some sort of monetary benefit out of the case, if they file a false complaint with that motivation, how can one protect themselves from that
then
sort of
then I
allegation?
think, Sia, as lawyers, we've noticed that there are so many times
Hmm.
that complaints are being filed or cases are FIRs being registered, like 376, a lot of POXO cases, 498A cases, where we see that those cases are false. But then you can't stop that cycle. Then you
Mm-hmm.
have to participate in the investigation and show that it is not you. Then you
Hmm.
have to satisfy the police and say that, okay, no, this is not me. Maybe there is some other malified intention that that woman or man, whoever it is, had, and because of that, that they have tried to do it. Then you have to show you have to prove yourself innocent. That can happen at the investigation stage, or if, let's say, a charge sheet is filed, then that has to happen in the trial stage. But there is no such thing as a shortcut method where you will
Mm-hmm.
where you can just try and stay away from
So you just have to
the
let
new.
it play out.
Correct. Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Is there any other act other than POSH which deals with sexual harassment in specifically a cyber workplace?
No, I don't think so. I think we still
Not
have to evolve.
necessarily in India, but other
We
any
have,
other countries that
even
you know of.
internationally, they've only come up with these guidelines which are there, frameworks which have come up,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not that they are punishing people or making or penalizing those
Mm-hmm.
offenses. Internationally also, I've not, at least to my mind, I've not seen. It doesn't come that they may have formulated such laws. Maybe Europe, a few of those countries may have done it, but I'm not aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is that I think these are new kind of offenses which have started to come. So for a new offense to come, the law also takes a little bit of time penalize that specific offense, because for a lot of people, unfortunately, even now, Sia, they will not think that there is an offense that they've done, or they, they offended you, or they offended your integrity, or they hurt your modesty. They will not realize it. So for a law to come, people have to realize that, okay, there is something which is wrong, and that will take some time to happen.
Understood. The next question for you is, if you could elaborate on what their role is and how the government can equip them with the right tools to deal with cyber crimes under POSH and general cyber law.
Correct. So, so nodal officers in these, so these nodal police, not necessarily police officers, nodal officers, they can be civil officers, and they can also be police officers. They have been appointed, I think it's been the earliest appointment was sometime in 2013. So it's been a decade now that at few police stations they have been operating. The idea of having them was to, look at matters where it was not necessary that the police intervention could be brought in, that they would, sort of, one, equip the complainant who's there to, how they could register their FIR, and also if there was a way that, maybe the issue that they were going through, that could be sorted out between them. Now, the question is that can they be equipped, or can they be trained in such a manner that they can then facilitate victims to be able to get access to justice? Because, for instance, if I go, or anybody, as lawyers, for us it is easier to speak to a police officer. But for a person, let's assume a 16-year-old girl who's still in school, and she wants to file her complaint, it is a daunting task for her to go to a police station. And even if she is being attended by a female police officer, the kind of questions that they might pose will be very difficult for her to answer, because they will be very personal questions. And so I personally feel that they can definitely be equipped. They can be provided with certain powers also. But for that, you have to bring about those changes in the statutory rules. Also, in police manual, in every single police services where you have police manual, one should include the capacity building of these nodal officers as to how they could then one, they should know what the law is, because a lot of times these people, they know their regular laws. 302 ye hai, 302 is this, 304 is this, 30 376 is going to be this. So they know those specific ones. But when you look at cybercrime, the law is very specific, and because there are not too many provisions, there are just few provisions that you can use to know exactly which provision you should be using. I think that is something which is important, because when you're registering an FIR, or when you're registering a complaint, if the proper sections are not put in, then the case goes for a toss, because it becomes easier for the defense to then do away with the case of the prosecution. I have realized that even the normal police officers, a lot of them are very sensitive to crimes which are committed against women. So they will try and make it easier. But still, I think in smaller towns, in smaller cities, even in Delhi NCR, you'll see a lot of police stations, they will not be able to handle anybody who goes with a cyber complaint. It's a very good idea that you're suggesting that, these nodal officers should be trained in order to be able to provide that kind of a support to a victim who's going. Or they should, so what they did was that they've started to make these Mahila Thana, that a Mahila Thana will be easier, or they've started to make these CAW cells, crime against women cells. All these institutions are there to facilitate access to justice. But when you actually go on the ground level, you realize it's not that easy. And so if there is a person who's, again, so these nodal officers are also from the same locality. I think it is easier for all of us to speak to somebody who's from the same locality, who would know the problems which are there in that area. Uh, that person could relate better. And I think the primary issue that any victim faces is to cross that threshold of entering a police station. So that that what do you call it? That process becomes smooth for them. The victims will find it easier to access police stations and be able to file their complaints. That's a very good idea, actually. You must write something on that. These are thoughts that when you bring about those thoughts, then you never know when one of those thoughts might see light of the day and the system changes. I think that's a brilliant thought. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. We will definitely do something on the topic.
Yeah.
My next question is, in case of cyber stalking in the workplace, what
Hmm.
remedies are provided to the individual as a worker of the institution?
I think one of the first remedy is always to complain to the posh and also to your supervisor, and also to that particular person who's stalking you, their supervisor also. It's not necessary that it can be in the same team. It could be in different teams also. Supervisors might vary. So it is important that that complaint is given to every person concerned. Now, a lot of times, what has happened, and there is no solution for this, but I have noticed that at least in a few cases, if there is a stalking that has taken place, then the woman is the one who has to unfortunately leave the job, because suddenly everybody else will gang up against her. So in those instances, I think it is the need of the hour to be more strong, and to carry on with those with that mission that, okay, this needs to be taken to the right end. Also, I think women are not so together when it comes to agitating their rights. You will find NGOs which are working, you will find other things also which are working, but you will never see that all of them are together to defend each other's rights. So I think that sort of sensitization, me, people like us, can always, through our limited social outreach, try and promote that it is important that if one woman is suffering from something, you never know when it will be your turn. So it's important that people take that in stride, and every one of us unites against it. Yeah.
Right. On an informal note, even if a complaint is sent, processed,
Uh,
and the woman wins the case or whatever it
huh.
is within the company or on the government level, I believe as a victim there is a sort of stigma that gets attached with the colleague at that point, because in an office you're working in a community, right? So it does end up with the worker, if be it a woman or a man, they do end up leaving anyway, because you can see your colleagues walking in eggshells around you. So is there
Yeah.
any way to fix that, or is that just you just have to deal with it?
I think I think the it has always been a tough path for people who have taken a stand. I think history has been, we've seen it through so many great leaders in country and internationally, who've taken a stand, and they've always been seen as someone who's not adhering to the normal social norms which are there. So if there is a social norm that, okay, in a workplace this person is going to say this, and I'll just get rid of it, no, that doesn't work. I think when you're taking a stand, you're taking a stand, and then there will always be repercussions of it. But then I think you just have to stay strong through those days, because you can't change people and their opinion. No, how often can you change it? See, when you meet people, they may come with their mindset, and they have these heavy baggages of generations. Their thought process could be, because their parents thought so, and their dada thought so, and their entire generation has been thinking like that. So how do you change that? It's very difficult unless that person actually wants to change.
Understood. Um, And the next question is, what role do you think a media trial would play in in the cases of harassment or cyber crimes? What role do you think the media plays in that?
I don't know if you've read that judgment, MJ Akbar, Priya Ramani judgment, which had come.
Mm-hmm.
So this trial had gone, it was basically sexual harassment in the workplace, not necessarily cyber stalking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, One of the things that I've always felt, this is not on the question that you've asked, but one of the things that I've always felt is that if there is any criminal offense which is there, for instance, outraging modesty of a woman,
Mm-hmm.
but you also can see that because of that, there is some kind of a defamation which has taken place. I personally feel that a person should also file a civil suit with respect to defamation, claiming damages. You know why? Because in a police report or a police case, you might find that that case might just go away, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because of lack of evidence, etc. But when you go on a defamation part of it, okay, you will always, whatever evidence you have, you can always claim damages, and those damages always come. So even though everybody tells you that you should file your you should always exhaust remedies which are provided to you under the criminal law, you must also look at defamation as a civil remedy which should always be exercised in order to get damages. That's one. Now coming back to media trial, so when we were, I think I don't know if you had watched it so much or not, but this was going on during the lockdown also, the MJ Akbar Priya Ramani case,
Mm-hmm.
which was going on. There was a lot of media trial. Even now, if you would remember, which is that Tehelka case which is going on,
Mm-hmm.
where the Goa wala Tehelka case.
Yeah.
So, media would want to sensationalize it, and half of it or 90% of it will be against the victim, or whosoever is the stronger party, they will probably be siding with that person, whatever could be the situation. What happens is that then the evidence is out. Any evidence that I want to use in a trial, when as let's say, assuming that I'm for the prosecution and the defense already knows that this evidence I'm going to use in a certain manner, then what good is there? In a trial, especially in a criminal trial, you have to have that element of shock,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how you confront and then you get the truth out of it. But everything, if it is hame aaj ye mil gaya and we found this evidence, and this shows this, they are going to use this document, etc., the other side then is prepared with it. They are prepared with their answer. The cross examination doesn't work only then. So media trial, especially now, I think, with so much that's going on, I think it's very, very difficult to find any justice in that environment,
Mm.
because then it is convoluted in that sense. It's not as pure as one would have imagined for a trial to be. So definitely, I think it has major repercussions in the criminal justice system.
Understood, ma'am. That is all from our side. Is there anything you would like to say in conclusion?
No, just this, that I'm really happy that you've put in some very valid suggestion, and I
Mhm.
hope you will write on that specific topic whenever you get time. Also, I think if you are a victim, um, I would suggest that it is important that you do file your complaints, and that you stay strong,
Mhm.
and always find a community of people who are there to back you up, because most of the time the journey to get justice is very, very difficult. And
Mhm.
so you might just need to stay strong, make sure that everything that is happening, you will be able to get through it. But practice safe behavior here would mean that when you know that there is a possibility that you may be vulnerable, try and practice and by now, I think, we all know what could cause trouble for us. So if you can avoid those instances, I think that's a good thing. And then just go to someone who is in a place of authority and tell them that, okay, I'm going through this. I want this to stop. What do you suggest could be a good way of taking it forward and stopping it? Don't suffer in silence. Nobody has to suffer in silence anymore. If social media is making you the victim, it can also make you the hero. So don't worry about, just being a victim of it. No, you can go and point out as to whatever nonsense is happening, and that you can show it to the world that, you are not necessarily a victim all the time. I think that's what I want to say. And if there are any queries, if you're ever going through any problem, you can always write into me also. I'll try and help as much as I can.
That's very reassuring, ma'am. Thank you. So that's it from Tasveer. Thank you so much for your time, ma'am.